But first, a hot-button issue in this year's election just got hotter. Red hot. I'm talking about the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. The registry where uninsured Americans can buy health insurance policies is seeing a huge spike in premiums for insurance. A mid-level plan will see a jump of about 25% in the 39 states that are served by the federally run exchange. That's an average. In most cases, portions of that would be offset by federal subsidies. Massachusetts, by the way, is not one of those states. In fact, a consumer here with a similar plan should expect to see a decrease of about 3%. As you know, Donald Trump has made Obamacare a central part of his campaign, saying dismantling it would be one of his first priorities if he is elected president.
In some areas, they're paying 60, 70, and 80% more than they were paying last year. It's over for Obamacare, and Hillary Clinton wants to double down and make it more expensive, and it's not going to work. I called it when it first came out. It's only getting worse.
And you know, his mantra is repeal and replace. Now, Hillary Clinton has said she would keep Obamacare and focus on bringing costs down. Democrats like Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake say the program is worth saving.
We know that there was a time when people could not get health insurance, that being a woman was a pre-existing condition, and nobody wants to go back to that. Do we have things that need to be fixed in Obamacare? Absolutely.
About 1 in 5 customers will have only one insurance company as an option, as many large insurers are pulling out of the federal program altogether. So, can Obamacare survive under its own weight, and what role will it play in the final days of the election? Joining me are Abigail Moncrief, an associate professor at the BU School of Law. Abby, good to see you. Thanks for being here. And Josh Archambault, senior fellow on healthcare policy at the Pioneer Institute. Josh, it's good to see you, too. Let's get some facts straight so we don't panic, everybody out there. If you're in an employer-provided plan, or you're from Medicare, Medicaid, or the veterans thing, this will not apply to you. Is that correct?
It depends.
What does that mean?
It depends if you get your insurance from a small business or from a big business. Certainly the rates that we've seen in the news have to do with the exchange, which is largely the individual market, but where you get your insurance actually does matter. And I would contend in your intro that we do have huge rate increases here in Massachusetts. Go talk to small business owners. Go talk to folks that are on the connector. They just came out. 22% increase for the plan that a quarter of connector folks are on, so they're going to have to switch.
But the individual purchaser is going to see a decrease. I'm not saying some aren't going to go up. On average, what the federal government is saying is 3% decrease here. You disagree with that?
I disagree with that.
Do you disagree with that, Abby?
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think there are so many different kinds of health insurance in the United States system, and part of what's wrong with Obamacare is that it was a stopgap measure that plugged a hole in this fragmented system in which different people get different kinds of insurance all over the place. So I think what Josh is talking about is, certain segments of insurance are fluctuating in different ways. My insurance changed last year, and I'm on a purely employer-sponsored insurance that's not through the exchange at all. But when we're talking about the exchange numbers and the exchange averages, I think the numbers look right.
So, but on the averages, one thing that I just did is in a footnote there, and I want to be clear, this average of 25% or whatever where the federal exchange is used, some of that blow is going to be cushioned by federal subsidies,
That's
correct?
Right.
We just don't know what amount right now. Is that right?
That's true, but I just want to give some context here.
Sure.
So you have about 9.5 million people on the exchanges who are getting subsidies. You have about 10 million people who do not get a subsidy who are in the individual market, on and off the exchange.
They're the ones who are really going to take a big hit.
Correct.
Here, yes?
Huge hit.
So if they take a hit, at least some of those folks could avoid the hit by signing up for the subsidies through the exchange. They're making a choice to purchase off the exchange.
Some of them are for a variety of reasons, but they're still paying for it. And these are some of the examples you start to see in the headlines where folks are seeing their bills increase from $700 a month to like $1,800 a month. That's a reality that we cannot just brush aside, saying that taxpayers are going to offset this. Subsidies are paid for by taxpayers. That's not free money.
You know, one of the things that so many people with whom I spoke in the last 24 hours have been surprised by this. But what we were talking about early on, those of us who know nothing about healthcare, unlike you, is what happens if only sicker and older people sign up and younger and healthier people, the invincibles, don't sign up. They're the ones who are going to provide the money that's not going to be used on healthcare. This is almost exactly what was predicted by critics, is it not, Abby?
The rate increases were predicted by critics who thought that if we didn't have the individual mandate, then we would end up with that adverse selection problem where only the sicker.
But young people are opting out and saying, "I'm willing to pay the fine."
Willing to pay the penalty because it's cheaper. I think that could be part of what's going on. I think another part of what's going on is just that the exchanges are expensive to participate in. They're difficult to participate in. The insurance companies don't need the individual market in order to make profits because it's a very small segment of the overall population of insured, and so they're opting out.
How big a problem is that, by the way? The fact that 20% are going to only have one option, which means
right. I think that's a huge part. When you get a monopoly in a state for health insurance,
prices
of course
go up.
The prices are going to go up. You wouldn't expect the health insurance companies to do anything different. So I think that part of the problem is that we're ending up with oligopolies and monopolies in most states.
But there's bigger issues here too. I mean, in insurance, the basic premise is when there's the tumult or there's uncertainty, they raise premiums. And there are some underlying risk sharing, and we don't have to go into the details of those.
Thankfully, yes.
That are correct, thankfully. But those are changing. 2 of the 3 are going away. And so as a result, there's a lot of uncertainty. They're a lot sicker than folks expected. Only 40% of people who qualify are actually showing up for the subsidies. So that's when you're seeing some of these premium increases with all this change happening in the market.
Josh, you worked for Scott Brown when he was in the state Senate. He ran and in part won a seat in the United States Senate by saying he was going to be the 41st vote that was going to defeat Obamacare. Then obviously there was some maneuvering there. It's back in the center of this campaign for the last 14 days. Do either of the presidential candidates get it? I mean, it seems to me, at least Donald Trump, as much as he's ridiculed for knowing nothing about policy, this whole thing he talks about these state borders, there seems to be some merit in his criticism. Is there not?
Well, I think what he gets right on this, which I don't agree with him on hardly anything.
Everybody has to do that caveat
no,
before
and
they
that's
say
fair.
anything.
But on
days.
this one in particular, is what he has run his campaign largely on is uncertainty and people getting hit in their wallet, where they feel like they're getting a raw end of the deal. And that's largely what's happening here for folks that don't have a subsidy, which is the vast majority of people in this country.
But who is the better approach?
I actually think that part of Trump's appeal, right, is that so many elected officials in the U.S. play politics before they care about policy. And what Trump has done is to kind of cut the bull in some ways.
Thank you.
Sorry, I guess I'm
okay.
not
Keep
allowed to say
going.
that on PBS. And to just, try to tell, he lies constantly. I'm not saying...
Okay, enough Trump criticism. Here's the question. Now, let me ask a question here, if you don't mind. Who gets it better in terms of the gross approach, the grand approach? One of them says, I want to fix it. That would be Hillary Clinton. One says, I want to dump it and replace it, even though no one has any idea what he'd replace it with. Which approach, the broad brush approach of Donald Trump or the incremental fixing of Hillary Clinton is the right way to deal with what we're hearing about today?
Yeah, so sorry, I was trying to get to that. So I think that that politically speaking, the only thing that's really possible, that's really going to leave us in a better place is Clinton's approach of trying to do incremental fixes, because the broad brush repeal and replace is not going to work with any Congress, no matter.
Do you agree with that?
I think the problem with what Secretary Clinton is proposing is that most of her proposals to fix will increase costs, not decrease them. That's not a fix, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Abby, thank you so much. Good to see you. Josh, pleasure. Good to see you. Appreciate it.